This is Austin Liti Limits, where authors talk to authors about books and the craft of storytelling. Sponsored by Blue Ink Review, because typing the end is just the beginning. Find out more at blueinkreview.com. In this episode, we talked with USA Today bestselling author Pamela Fagan Hutchins. Pamela was born in Austin and spent a good portion of her childhood in Amarillo, where she dreamed of being a rodeo cowgirl. At Texas A&M, she dabbled in music with thoughts of maybe, just maybe, being a professional singer. So it was only natural that she moved on to law school at UT Austin. She wrote her first novel with a little goading from her husband. That launched the What Doesn't Kill You series of 16 books, blending romance and mystery, and featuring 5 different female main characters. And she's working on the 7th novel now in the Patrick Flint mystery series. Recently published number 6 is entitled Stag Party. Today, we're going to welcome Pamela Fagan Hutchins to our show here on Liti Limits. Pamela, how you doing?
I'm good, Larry. How you doing?
We're doing okay. What's the weather like up there in Snowwaresville?
Believe it or not, here we are. It's early November. Normally, we've got a couple of feet of snow up here on the face of the mountains where I live, but it is sunny and 40 degrees. Lovely.
Sunny and 40 degrees. Well, I hate to tell you that, but it's going to be 82 here in Austin today. Knowing that you were born in Austin and you're familiar with the town, doesn't that just make you feel like you might want to move back someday?
It's the reason I'm here. A couple of years ago, my husband and I did a half Ironman triathlon in Austin, the Longhorn, and it was October 20th. It was 95 degrees when we finished. And I just had this strong desire never to suffer like that ever again. With cold, you can put more clothes on. You can only get so naked, it's hot.
Well, I moved down from Colorado to get away from all the snow and cold so that I could be warm. I don't know. Well, let's talk about the latest series, the Patrick Flint series. You've got, and I've got Stag Party here, which is number 6 of 7, and really enjoyed it. It was wonderful. But I guess my question is, why Patrick Flint, a doctor who is solving murders?
Well, I've written a lot of books. I've been writing female protagonist romantic mysteries for the first 15 of what I did. And I was working on number 16. And then my dad got a diagnosis of cancer with 3 months to live. And I sat down and thought, how do I deal with this? And so I thought, well, I write, and I'm going to write the stories of my dad from a time in his life that he found to be fascinating and exhilarating and that we all loved. And I'm going to turn them into the kinds of things I do, which is mysteries. So I started with a cast of characters, our family. I started with location, the 1970s, Wyoming. And all I needed to do was add in some murders. So I researched some local murders and things to get ideas and worked on what would be appropriate for the 70s in that geographic area and wrote like the wind. And the good news is that while I thought these books would only be for family and that I'd only get one in my dad's hands before he passed away, it's been 2.5 years. My dad is doing great. He is a physician. He took his care into his own hands and just killed it. Well, it didn't kill him. He killed it. And then we've started collaborating on the book. So I am writing number 7 here in a couple of months. Stag Party's number 6. And we now have really a ball talking about character motivation and what kind of beer did they have in Wyoming in the 1970s and stuff like that.
Well, that does bring up an interesting question. Why the 1970s? Why not set it today?
Well, I wanted it to be nostalgic. And keeping in mind that I was doing something totally different here. I was putting down, at the time I was writing 3 books, put down the 3 I was working on and did something that I intended originally to be completely for family. Turned out that was had a larger appeal than that, and it's done quite well for me. Thank you, readers, and the gods of literary world, whatever has worked for Patrick and me. But originally they were for family. So I picked that nostalgic time when we were really there. And when I started doing it, the cool thing is that I'd been writing contemporary mysteries, which the speed at which we become aware of things and information with social media and with devices in our hands all the time has become so fast that I found it really refreshing to go back before fax machines and to play out mystery, thriller, suspense, where people were isolated from what everybody else knew. And I just hadn't done that before because, I'm a child of my era. So it was a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. I'm still writing the books.
Well, it does bring up another interesting question, though. You did 16 books in the What Doesn't Kill You series with 5 different main characters, if I get this right.
You're right.
So you're writing this, but then the Patrick Flint idea comes up and you want to write that, but you're writing it for your family, even though you've already had publishing success.
I just didn't know what else to do with my emotions, but make my dad into the protagonist, worthy individual that he was. And so I sat down with him and I said, okay, Dad, I'm going to write these books. You are the protagonist. I want to make sure I write the kind of books you want to write because they're for you. So let's talk about it. And he said, well, I don't want, sex on the page, a bunch of foul language, a protagonist that's unlikable, even though he can be flawed. And I don't want a bunch of glorification of child pedophilia or, human trafficking or assault. I want bad guys, but I don't want to glorify them by putting them on the page. And I want lots of adventure and I want the mountains. And I said, so basically, Dad, you want Joe Pickett. And I don't know if you've read the C.J. Box books, but Joe Pickett is the protagonist in, I want to say 20 of his novels. They're shooting a series for it up in Calgary right now. And my dad was like, yeah, basically. So it was a total change for me. I was writing from multiple points of view in a different era. I was writing adventure mysteries, family drama, if you will. I was going outside of the readers I had. And when I decided that the books looked really pretty good, and I wrote 3 very fast, and to release them, boom, 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 it was with pretty low expectations. I kind of thought I'd taken a year off and then I needed to get back to my real job. But it turned out, there goes the Boston Terrier, that I found a new set of readers and that there's been crossover between them and the old books, back and forth, back and forth. And so while it was a little bit of a sag for a while in household income while we figured it out, it turned out to be, for me, the most rewarding experience as a writer that I've had, because I was doing it for Dad, finding new readers who attached to the books at a really emotional level, some of them at a very nostalgic level, about the 70s. And I started having male readers. So that was also fun. All my former protagonists had been female, but you put Patrick Flint on a book and suddenly I had guys.
Yeah. In reading the Patrick Flint books, I got a sense of, it just reminded me of Murder, She Wrote, the old TV series. You've got, well, of course, Jessica Fletcher was a writer, but still small town, Cabot Cove, Maine, and all of a sudden there's all these murders breaking out. And they had more murders than they had the population, it seems.
Yeah, exactly.
Did that create a bit of an issue for you, writing about Patrick Flint up in Snowswareville? No, is it Snowswareville or Snowswareville?
Nowheresville. Like, in fact, our place in Texas before we moved up here was called Nowheresville. So we just added an S on the front, but it's fitting. When I look at a lot of the series that are popular right now, or at least the ones that are popular that I like to read, a lot of them are the small town trope mystery where you're having it's supposed to be this idyllic, peaceful town, and there are so many more murders than you could possibly imagine. And it does become a challenge after a while. And for me, the challenge is going to be pacing it out, because the first few books were written as if they were about 6 months apart. And I'm still trying to do that, but I can't make it where the poor family has a murder every month that they're thrown into the middle of. That's just cruel. And anyway.
Yeah. Along with the murder, though, you also created issues for the family. A daughter who gets kidnapped, a son who almost dies. it's amazing how much trouble you were able to get Patrick Flint into.
It's really fun to get Patrick into trouble. In real life, my dad, who is a very smart, very capable man, does the dumbest things. Dad, I love you, but does the dumbest things in the world. And so with every book, I try to start it with something that the real life Patrick has done that's just really dumb. And because he does things that are dumb and also has this overblown sense of duty to the world and responsibility with his Hippocratic oath and etc., it is wonderful for putting him into situations where between those two things, he ends up putting everybody in the face of danger. I also feel like when you are writing amateur sleuth, if you will, which is what I have done with my books, although my next series that's coming out is more of a legal thriller or romantic legal thriller set in contemporary Wyoming. But with the ones where I've had amateur sleuth, you've got to have skin in the game for the sleuth to want to get involved to solve the crime. In a police procedural, right, you're just doing your job. You may care a lot. It may be that you're sucked in at a more personal level because of your past, your victim ethos, or whatever. But in an amateur sleuth, you've got to have skin in the game. And so, yeah, I really whip up on that family to try to keep them all very invested in solving these crimes.
Poor Patrick. I really felt for him. It seemed like, one disaster after another. When it's promoted as Stag Party. Let me hold this up real fast again. Stag Party is the number 6 in a 7-book series. Did you set out to write 7? I mean, why 7?
There's actually 9 that are currently planned, and then we have to see how the transition goes between this series and the next. So right now, the 7th is just the only one I'm talking about. I haven't started writing it yet, but it is on the schedule. But and it is, kind of up there what it's going to be about. But I actually have a piece of paper with 12 titles written down and basically 2 sentence out, a synopsis for 12 books. But right now I'm only saying 9. But I like to do it in sets of 3 because I feel like there's an arc, an ebb and flow that occurs with characters and what some of their personal stories are that are going on. And so with each set of 3 in my mind, I kind of have that character arc going on. So it'll either be 9 or 12 or 15 or 18 or 21 or 300. I don't know. But I do have a commitment next year that I'm going to write 2 more of this new series, as well as one of the Patrick Flint. And the new series is called Wyoming Mysteries. There's an original series name for you. It contains both the aged up to current day Patrick Flint characters. So you get Patrick Flint at 72, Trish at 50, and et cetera. You get the 50, I say early 50s. You get the characters at the age they are now, and you get the Maggie Killian character. She's one of my What Doesn't Kill You series protagonists. Mix them together and overlay it with different protagonists so that cast becomes the community, the supporting characters that you love and from the other books, but that in case we're tired of beating up on Patrick and, tired of, just the development and the storylines going with those characters, we've got a whole new cast and they're a lot of fun, quirky.
Yeah. My latest book, which got really great reviews, The Printer and the Strumpet, is the second book of what I think is going to be a 5-book trilogy. So
that's good. I like that 5-book trilogy.
I don't normally like to spend time asking an author the typical question, what is your writing day like? But with you, I almost am forced to do that because by my little calculator, I figure you are producing a book about every 4 months.
You're correct.
How do you do that?
I am the Energizer Bunny. Actually, I am. And I was Patrick Flint's daughter. I'm the grown-up version of Trish. I'm really, really organized. I'm very driven. I enjoy working. And I took 10 years to write the first book and 5 years to write the second and a year to write the third. And I just got faster and faster. And when I started to look at it as a job, I realized a job means I sit down and write. even if it's really cruddy and I have a lot of revision to do, I get the words on the page for that day religiously. So in the mornings, I work on the business of writing, for better or for worse. As a control freak and an entrepreneur and someone who'd been successful in other parts of her life, I very egotistically thought I can do this on my own with my husband. And so I published independently. And I got very lucky. My first book did very well, and I've continued to feed the family since then. But because of that, the morning is consumed with everything from reviewing translation proposals to working on ads to sending, reviewing cover concepts for a book that's for next year that needs to go up for pre-order. You name it, I'm doing it in the morning. And then I have lunch, and in the afternoon, I start winding up until it gets to be about time to make dinner, and I'm finally getting something done. And I'm like, I don't know what we're going to eat. I've finally got my groove, and I'm writing. So I try to write when I'm really working on a book. I try to write an average of 3,000 words a day, which is really not a huge commitment for me. I can write about 1,200 an hour, but if you do add Facebook in, it gets a little, it depresses the number a bit. So anyway, I write like the wind, and I very much do brainstorm ideas with my husband before I ever do them. And then I do an outline and then I do a synopsis, and then I write. So I'm very set up for fast writing, by the time I write. And with each book in a series, they get faster to write because the characters intimately, they're talking to you, they're living with you.
Yeah.
And so at the first book in a series takes a lot longer. One year I wrote 5 books. That was awful. I don't want to do it again. Talked with a new publisher this last week that was asking whether I wanted to commit to 3 or 4. And it was like, can I say 3? I really want to slow down. But realistically speaking, I'm not capable of doing that. It'll be 4.
I remember the days when traditionally published authors would whine about the fact that they had to turn out one book every year. And that just seemed like, too much. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's a different world. We have a different speed at which we consume information and entertainment, everything being available to us digitally. And as authors, we either adapt to that or we're a relic of the past, in my opinion. And so there are certain kind of books, whether it's by length or topic, they're going to take longer than writing an adventure mystery or an amateur sleuth mystery. I'm definitely writing genre. If I was writing literary fiction, it'd take me longer.
Yeah. When you started out and you published your first novel, did you go into it thinking you were going to make a career of this and this was the start of something? Or did you write it and you were kind of thinking, let's see where this goes?
I wrote the first one to get my husband off my back because I told him I wanted to write a novel. And he said, where is it? After a few years of me saying that. So I just wrote it as fast as I could and said, okay, here, thinking that would get the monkey off my back, but it didn't. And he was very supportive. He used to own a bookstore and he's an avid reader. And he said, I may be a little biased, but I think that you're one of the best natural writers I've ever read. I want you to keep going. So I did. And then when we had the first one come out, I thought, my goal is to write 6 books, 6 novels. And then maybe when I'm retired, we can do something with that. But over time, I'll get them out there. We'll celebrate the milestones, and it won't be about money now. Well, the first week, Saving Grace was out. That's the first Katie Connell book in the What Doesn't Kill You series, and it's set in Texas and the Caribbean. It made back everything we'd invested in it in a week. And we'd invested, I guess I want to say that meant we got $6,000 in the first week. So it paid for itself. And I said, holy crap, maybe I can do this thing. And so then my mind quickly started changing gears and my goals changed. And then it was make money so I can quit doing my day job because this is more fun and because I'm highly competitive with the world and myself. And that was my marker. And then it became make it where my husband can retire. And then it became conquer the world, whatever. And I'm not there yet on conquer the world, but I love setting goals and I love going after them. I love writing. I love readers. It's just a really good match for me. But in the beginning, it was just a little change, extra pocket change when I retire. Just get those 6 books out there, and then I'll have some pocket change. So, and it roll.
Okay. All right. So I guess it's time now for the Austin Liti Limits lightning round.
Ooh.
And this is an idea that we stole from inside the actor's studio, but it's okay. They stole it from Bernard Pivot, who stole it from Marcel Proust, who stole it from somebody else. So we figure, they have no claim to, sole use of this. Not copyrighted, I suppose. Anyway, it's 10 questions, hopefully 10 simple answers. You don't have to keep it to one word answer, but, without rambling a lot like most writers do, like we all do. Are you ready?
I commit to not rambling. Let's do it.
All right. So the first question is, what is your favorite word?
Pugnacious.
Good. What's your least favorite word?
Hasty.
What turns you on?
Wildflowers.
Nice.
I almost said my husband, but this is a not the kind of show to talk about that. So wildflowers.
Okay. What turns you off?
Concrete.
Palm trees.
Concrete.
Oh, concrete. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you there. Concrete, I
palm
get.
trees. Yeah, palm trees are good.
Palm trees I'd have trouble with. Okay. What is your idea of happiness?
My husband, my kids, and my animals, all in the same cabin on the face of the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming.
Who's your favorite author?
Pat Conroy, but Larry McMurtry's right there, right after him.
If you could be a character for any well-known novel throughout history, who would you want to be?
As a child, the answer would have been either Anne of Green Gables or Laura Ingalls Wilder. Those lives.
Little House on the Prairie?
Yeah, Little House on the Prairie. Loved the adventure of that. As an adult, and I really have thought about this before. As an adult who's a writer, the idea of writing a protagonist is to make things as difficult for them as possible. In my life as an adult, I seek simplicity, peace, joy, and love. I don't want to be in a book. I think I have the best life out there. I'll take mine for 500, Pat, and leave the literary characters to suffer.
Well, then that makes this next question kind of difficult. But if you could do any profession other than writer, other than what you're doing right now, what would that be?
As a child, that would have been, I would have wanted to be a rodeo cowgirl. But all my life, I've really wanted to be a singer.
A singer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the voice for it?
Nearly. It's so close, but probably not. When I was 20 something and maybe it didn't matter as much the voice, but the whole package, I might have had a fighting chance, but I'm 54 now. So, but I do play and I sing, and my husband plays the guitar and the bass, and I play the piano, and we record. So we have fun.
Back when I was in college, I had a friend and we did a duo kind of thing. We hit the bars. We did okay, but he was the talented one. And I was just sort of like filling in with the guitar and the bass and would sing a few songs. He went on to, he is still a professional musician, but he opened for the Beach Boys and a number of others. He's still out there in California. So a lot of it's like that. But yeah, he was the talented one. And like I said, I was just the hanger on.
My husband was a successful bassist, and he opened for Natalie Merchant and 10,000 Maniacs.
Wow.
But he gave up the life of the long-haired rock star for a career in the refining business. But That's why I like him. Is he's the long-haired rock star and surfboarder, and that all that grown-up stuff is pays the bills. But to me,
Right.
he's still the long-haired bassist, rock star, surfer.
All right. So you're not a singer, but you're a writer. But then the question becomes, our next question becomes, what profession would you least want to do?
I say this with great confidence. I have a friend who did it. Ice road trucker. It's terrifying to me. So I don't like to be scared. No horror movies, no ice road trucker.
Okay. But then you don't like to be scared, but you like to scare others.
Yes. Because, when I'm writing my books, they don't scare me. And I try not to make them gory, right? I don't want to do something that's psychologically damaging. I want to take real life and make it what if it was more exciting, more interesting, and bad things really did happen to you, etc., and make it with all the boring parts stripped out. But I don't enjoy horror, and I really don't enjoy psychological thriller, if that makes sense.
It does make
So
sense.
I see myself, you said Murder, She Wrote, right? It's a softer, gentler world. People die, but there's good people trying to fix it. And we don't dwell on the horrible things they did. We just move on.
Yeah. All right. So our final lightning round question.
Okay.
If heaven exists, what would you like God to say to you when you reach the check-in desk?
Okay. What I want him to say is, hi, Pamela and Eric, because I don't ever want one of us to have to be without the other. So I'm hoping at the check-in desk that we're there together, because I just can't stand the thought of life without my husband. How's that for sappy?
It is sappy, but what did God say?
God said that we don't always get what we want, but, we'll be together someday.
Good
You
answer.
never know. You never know.
Yeah. Pamela Fagan Hutchins. Like to know, you've got one more book coming after this one in the Patrick Flint series. So that's what you're going to be working on next. We are really glad that you could join us today for Austin Liti Limits.
It was so much fun. I really appreciate you having me, Lara. It's nice to be back in Austin.
This has been a presentation of Austin Liti Limits, made possible with help from our good friends at Blue Ink Review, where typing "the end" is just the beginning. Find out more at blueinkreview.com.